Let's look back at some of the biggest stories that we've covered here on Al Jazeera throughout the year. And who better to speak to about this than Associated Press global sports correspondent Rob Harris. Rob, we'll begin with the delayed Tokyo Games. You were there and it was an Olympics like no other.
Yeah, and one the IOC felt just had to go ahead, despite the fact I was amongst the few there able to get into the venues. It was obviously a first, mostly behind closed doors Olympics, a surreal, soulless experience at times. But while the Japanese public were locked out, of course, the games did manage to get completed. So many could still watch around the world on television, which meant the IOC got the cash, which could be ultimately sent back out to fund sports around the world.
And another huge talking point was Simone Biles, one of the greatest US gymnasts of all time, struggling with her mental health and unable to compete for much of the Games.
Yeah, it was a real true moment of drama in the opening days of the Games where she lost herself in mid-air and she actually struggled on her opening routine, and she had the confidence to walk away and she stepped onto a far bigger platform, it would seem, one of mental health advocacy, and she felt that strength to be able to say she did not feel right, she did not feel in the right headspace, and ultimately she only returned at the time of her choosing, and she did make it back into competition, and she did win yet another Olympic medal. She won bronze, it was a 7th medal, and we really saw her send out a wider message of courage and strength through her actions at the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, we certainly did. And another athlete who hit the headlines for her mental health troubles was Japanese tennis star Naomi Osaka. Just remind us, Rob, what happened to her earlier this year?
Yeah, at the French Open in May, she said actually the toll of her exchanges with the media was so great that she didn't want to do press conferences during the French Open. A really heavy-handed response followed from the French Open organisers saying they'd fine her, and that's what they did. They said she'd be fined $15,000 if she didn't speak to the media, and she chose to step away instead to focus on her own well-being, and then she also decided to opt out of Wimbledon. But she did still make it to the Olympics, her home games, and one of those signature moments, the opening ceremony, lighting the cauldron in Tokyo. There was a disappointment though for her in the actual tennis tournament. She was knocked out in the 3rd round, saying that she just did not feel in the right place, but she certainly did help to redefine the ability to talk so openly about mental health.
She certainly did. So it was a pretty tough year for Osaka all in all, but a fairy tale one for British tennis player Emma Raducana, who made history at the US Open.
Oh, what a moment it was. It produced what sport crazed, those completely unexpected moments of drama. I think back, of course, to the Olympics when we had Marcel Jacobs winning the men's 100 metres final unexpectedly, but he was in the final lineup. This in tennis was Emma Raducanu going from a complete outsider, the first qualifier to ever win a Grand Slam, and she did it without even dropping a set, climbing up the world rankings by hundreds of places, and really helping to provide a real signature moment of the year in sports.
Absolutely, it was pretty incredible, wasn't it? Moving on to football. A year of significant change for arguably the world's greatest footballer.
Yeah, and those tears of Lionel Messi when he eventually left Barcelona. Who could ever have imagined him playing for another club? And he didn't even want to leave the Camp Nou. It was only because of La Liga's financial regulations, which meant Barcelona couldn't afford to keep him on the wage bill, which meant he had to leave. And for a player like him, there was only one, perhaps, destination or a couple that could afford him, and it was Paris Saint-Germain. He's yet to really make a complete impact there. He's still getting used to things. The Timo's running away with the French title, but regardless, it's been a successful year undoubtedly for him, finally winning a major trophy with Argentina, with the Copa America. And what about a World Cup next year for him? And such a title that's eluded him so far. Will it be his final World Cup? He is in his mid-30s now, but it's already been such a year of change for him.
Well, speaking of years of change, it was a life-changing year, but not in a good way for golfer Tiger Woods. The 15-time major champion's career almost over after a serious car crash.
Yeah, that was in February, and there were so many actually fearing for his life, the authorities in Los Angeles where that crash happened, and then there was a sense he might have to have a leg amputated even, but He has made it back playing again just this month. He's not going to be able to return playing full time, though. We really have seen the end of Tiger Woods playing year round on the golf tours. But what about a return to the Masters in 2022 in April? It was the last event he did win in 2019, but it was a really harrowing moment of the year when we got news of that crash from LA in February, and the fact he is able to actually even be playing again, it is a miracle as we sort of end this year.
Absolutely. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. There's so much more we could have spoken about. We didn't even touch on Tom Brady and his 7 Super Bowl wins. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to speak. Happy New Year.